In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NBA games happening on February 9th, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Detroit Pistons versus Charlotte Hornets. The Detroit Pistons and the Charlotte Hornets meet at Spectrum Center on Monday night, and it has that sneaky big game feel even if it is not a marquee matchup on national television. Both teams are rolling, and you can almost feel that little extra buzz around this one. The Pistons coming off a mixed mini stretch, with a strong win over the Knicks wrapped around a flat showing against the Wizards, and they have the Raptors on deck next. They have still taken 22 of their last 31, which is a serious heater for a team that not long ago felt stuck in neutral. That kind of run gives a group a quiet swagger, especially on the road, where they have not shown much fear lately. Charlotte is not exactly cooling off either. The Hornets just handled the Hawks and the Rockets. They see the Hawks again next, and they have stacked 12 wins in their last 15 outings. For a young roster that has taken its lumps in recent seasons, that kind of surge feels huge, like the city finally has something fun to lean into again. Injuries are still part of the story, even if they are not completely derailing anything right now. Detroit remains a bit short-handed with Ronald Holland II ruled out, which trims some depth but does not completely change their identity. Charlotte is still without Kobe White and Malachi Branham, pieces that matter for guard rotation and ball handling, but they have managed to keep the overall rhythm of the team steady anyway. Two of the hottest teams in the league clash here, with the more stable, steady performer on the season technically traveling. Detroit did have that strange stumble against a struggling Wizards group, yet they answered it with a real statement against the Knicks, which helps restore trust that their floor is still pretty high most nights. On the other side, Charlotte just kept the streak alive on Saturday with their 9th straight win, and there is a real sense that they are not questioning themselves at all right now. The Pistons will likely be treated as the more reliable side, and honestly it makes sense when you look at their long stretch of solid basketball and their comfort playing away from home. They move the ball well, defend at a respectable level, and usually do not beat themselves with constant mistakes. That said, the Hornets have that fun, slightly chaotic young team energy going, where confidence sometimes matters just as much as structure. This is the best stretch of ball the Hornets have played in what feels like forever, and you can see it in the way they run the floor, celebrate stops, and show real composure late in games. The Hornets are 32-21 against the spread on the season, which quietly tells you they have been underrated for a while, even with people talking about their recent streak. Taking all of that into account, stepping in front of a young home team playing with this much belief, especially when catching the underdog role, feels a bit like standing in front of a moving train just to prove a point. This spot sets up as a real statement opportunity for Charlotte, not just another regular Monday night. As our first pick for this matchup, the Charlotte Hornets to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Detroit is averaging 117.5 points on 47.9% shooting, while holding opponents to 110.3 points on 44.3% from the field. They shoot 34.8% from beyond the arc and 75.4% at the free throw line, and they pull down 45.7 rebounds per game, which helps them get second chances and limit extra looks on the other end. Charlotte is not far behind in raw output, putting up 116 points per night on 46.3% shooting and giving up 114.2 points on 47.3% to their opponents. And they are hitting 37% from 3 and a strong 81.3% from the foul line, with 46 rebounds per game helping them finish possessions and start quick offense the other way. When both teams can score at that level, shoot that well from deep, and rebound enough to keep the pace up, it usually creates the kind of environment where runs fly back and forth rather than the game grinding down. Detroit's combination of efficient shooting and solid rebounding naturally leans toward games where their offense shows up early and often because they do not need a ton of possessions wasted on empty trips. Charlotte's improved spacing and perimeter shooting, paired with good free throw accuracy, means that even when they are not hitting everything from the field, they can still keep the scoreboard moving. With both sides comfortable pushing in transition and neither defense consistently locking teams in a half-court slugfest, the setup favors a game where scoring flows rather than stalls. There may be a few stretches where defenses tighten up, as there usually are, but the overall profile points more towards offense having the upper hand across 4 quarters. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Utah Jazz versus Miami Heat. The Utah Jazz head to Casillas Center to take on the Miami Heat on Monday night, and it has that tricky, slightly uncomfortable feel for the home side. Utah just dropped games to the Hawks and the Magic, and they have the Kings waiting next on the schedule, all while slogging through a stretch where they have lost 17 of their last 21 games. Miami comes in having fallen to the Celtics, then bouncing back with a win over the Wizards, with the Pelicans on deck, but they have still dropped 3 of their last 5 overall. Injuries keep hanging over this matchup. Utah is still without Walker Kessler, which hurts their interior presence, and they are monitoring Keyonte George as a possible return candidate for this one. Miami has already ruled out Tyler Herro and Pelle Larsson, and Norman Powell is sitting in that uncomfortable day-to-day zone after leaving Sunday's game with lower back tightness. These teams have already seen each other once this season, and that meeting turned into a Heat blowout, a 147-116 win back on January 24th, so that result is sitting in the background too. The Heat are still the better overall roster and should be expected to win straight up at home, but that does not automatically mean they can be trusted against the number. They have a real habit of playing down to weaker opponents, letting teams hang around, and that tendency is even more concerning when they are at the tail end of a back-to-back and possibly down another key rotation piece if Powell cannot go. Honestly, you never quite know which version of Miami you are going to get from night to night, the one that looks like a real threat in the East or the one that casually coughs up big leads against bottom-tier teams. Utah, on the other hand, has been a rough watch in terms of wins and losses, but they have quietly been a lot more reliable for bettors than for fans. They have covered 4 straight games and hold a solid against the spread mark of 29-24 this season, which says a lot about how often they are competitive relative to expectations. Even while losing a large majority of their recent outings, they keep slipping in under the number, hanging around as underdogs, and making opponents actually work to put them away. Here is the thing, if one side constantly plays to the level of its opponent and the other keeps cashing tickets even while dropping games, it becomes tough to lay points with the unreliable favorite, especially in a fatigue spot. Trusting the Heat to suddenly become consistent in this kind of setup is a big ask, and backing the scrappy, undervalued Jazz catching points feels far more reasonable here. As our first pick for this matchup, the Utah Jazz to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Utah is putting up 118.3 points per game while shooting 46.8% from the field, but they are also surrendering 126.9 points on 49.2% shooting, which is a huge defensive leak. They hit 35% of their threes and 79.9% at the free throw line, and they pull down 43.7 rebounds per game, which helps keep possessions alive and gives them extra looks even when the initial shot is not ideal. Miami brings plenty of scoring punch as well, averaging 119.5 points on 46.3% shooting and allowing 117.6 points on 46% shooting to their opponents. They are knocking down 36% from beyond the arc and 79% at the stripe, and they are grabbing 46.5 rebounds per game, which is strong enough on the glass to fuel transitions and quick secondary breaks. Utah allows opponents to hit 37.8% from deep, which pairs with Miami's capable outside shooting in a way that favors big swings from the perimeter, and the Jazz defense in general just has not been able to keep numbers down. On the other side, the Heat give up 34.9% from 3, which is not elite shutdown territory. And Utah's combination of respectable outside shooting and near 80% free throw accuracy means they can keep the scoreboard ticking even if their overall efficiency dips at times. When you line up those numbers, you are looking at 2 teams that can both fill it up and also give plenty back on the defensive end. The Jazz consistently play in high-scoring environments because their defense leaks badly while their offense remains aggressive and productive, and the Heat are perfectly capable of taking advantage of that, with their own defensive performance not exactly slamming the door shut either. Even with Miami on a back-to-back, there is enough shooting, enough pace, and enough defensive inconsistency on both sides to suggest a game where points come in bunches rather than drying up. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Milwaukee Bucks versus Orlando Magic. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Orlando Magic square off at the Kia Center on Monday night in an NBA matchup that suddenly feels a lot more interesting than it looked a few weeks ago. Milwaukee comes in having taken care of the Pacers and the Pelicans, with another date against the Magic right in front of them, and that stretch has helped them stack 3 straight wins. Orlando, on the other hand, has knocked off the Nets and the Jazz, and they also get the Bucks again next, but that comes in the context of dropping 6 of their last 10 overall, so it has been more of a roller coaster for them. Injuries sit right at the center of how this game is being viewed. The Bucks are still without Giannis Antetokounmpo, which obviously changes everything about how they usually play, from spacing to pace to who controls the offense late in games. The Magic are watching Franz Wagner's status closely with that questionable tag hanging over him, which matters a lot for their scoring and wing defense. These teams have not faced each other yet this season, so there is no fresh head-to-head data point, but both are walking into this one carrying some momentum in their own way. Milwaukee has taken advantage of a softer portion of the schedule to string together 3 victories, finding a bit of rhythm without their superstar, while Orlando is trying to use its own recent 3-game win run as a reset button after that rough 10-game stretch. The number opened with the Bucks as road underdogs, which is no surprise with Giannis on the shelf, but the spread feels inflated when you look a little closer. Orlando has been underwhelming compared to expectations and has racked up plenty of ugly losses, and that shows up in the against the spread column where the Magic sit at 20-31 at TS this season. They literally just needed a massive, historic-style comeback to get past a Jazz team that is clearly in a tanking phase, which does not exactly scream trustworthy favorite. Milwaukee is far from perfect and still has to deal with the absence of Giannis, but the Bucks have quietly won and covered in each of their last 3 outings, which hints at a group adjusting better than a lot of people expected. Historically, the underdog has cashed in 6 of the last 8 meetings between the Magic and the Bucks, which lines up with the idea that these matchups tend to be tighter than the market sometimes suggests. The Magic are also just 5-10 at TS across their last 15 games when they are favored by 7 or more points, which adds another layer of doubt whenever they are asked to win big. Sure, Orlando has enough talent to pull out a home win and probably will more often than not, but the profile here screams closer contest, something that ends with a margin in the single digits rather than a blowout. As our first pick for this matchup, the Milwaukee Bucks to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Milwaukee is averaging 112.1 points per game while shooting 48.2% from the field, even without Giannis, and allowing 116.1 points on 46.6% shooting on the defensive end. From beyond the arc, the Bucks are hitting 39.4% of their attempts, which is an excellent clip, and they sit at 73.1% from the free throw line, while pulling down 40.9 rebounds per game to keep themselves in the mix on the glass. Orlando is putting up 115 points per night on 46.2% shooting and allowing 115.9 points on 48.3% to opposing offenses, so their games tend to stay pretty open on both ends as well. The Magic are connecting on 34.2% from three-point range and an impressive 79.7% at the stripe, and they are snagging 43.7 boards per game, which gives them extra chances and lets them push the ball when they secure stops. Milwaukee is giving up 37% shooting from deep, and Orlando's perimeter shooting is decent enough to take advantage when those looks are there. On the flip side, the Magic allow opponents to hit 36.4% from outside, and the Bucks' nearly 40% accuracy from long range makes that a real pressure point in this matchup. When you combine efficient three-point shooting from Milwaukee, respectable offensive numbers from both sides, and defenses that are more leaky than lockdown, you get a game script that naturally leans toward higher totals rather than a grindy slugfest. Both teams have enough shot makers, enough spacing, and enough tendency to give up clean looks that extended scoring runs feel more likely than long droughts. Even if there are moments where the pace slows or the half-court gets a bit sticky, the overall statistical picture points toward offense having the upper hand for most of the night. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Chicago Bulls versus Brooklyn Nets. The Chicago Bulls and the Brooklyn Nets square off at Barclays Center on Monday night, and it is more about which team you trust the least than which one you love. Chicago comes in off losses to the Raptors and Nuggets, with the Celtics waiting next, and they have dropped 7 of their last 8, so confidence is understandably thin. Brooklyn just fell to the Magic, bounced back a bit with a win over the Wizards, and heads into a matchup with the Pacers after this, but the bigger story is that they have lost 15 of their last 18 overall. Injuries only add to the chaos on both sides. The Bulls have ruled out Josh Giddey, Zach Collins, and Trey Jones, while Jalen Smith is sitting in that questionable category, which makes their rotation feel patched together. The Nets are missing Igor Domin and, more importantly, Michael Porter Jr., who has been their leading scorer, so they lose a big chunk of their offensive punch. You really would not feel great backing either team right now, because both have been in rough form and keep finding new ways to frustrate people. Chicago teased a turnaround on Saturday, building a lead that looked promising, then still managed to get blown out despite controlling the game early, which kind of sums up their season. Brooklyn finally snapped a nasty cold stretch by beating the lowly Wizards, but that win does not erase how inconsistent they have been, especially with Porter Jr. not available. The Bulls are likely to be favored here, mainly because the Nets feel like a team drifting toward the bottom and have that tank mode vibe attached to them. The problem is that Chicago themselves are beat up and stacking losses, and their track record in the favorite role lately has been shaky at best. Since November 24th, the Bulls are just 6-10 straight up when listed as favorites, and they have failed to cover in 11 of those 16 games, which tells you the market has overrated them quite often. They have also dropped 17 games on the road this season, which makes laying points away from home even more uncomfortable. On the flip side, while nobody is exactly eager to back the Nets, they have had some success in this matchup, winning 6 of the last 9 meetings against Chicago. When you add it all up, trusting the Bulls to go on the road and win by margin feels like forcing it, while taking points with the wounded home team at least lines up with how these teams have actually performed in similar spots. As our first pick for this matchup, the Brooklyn Nets to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The scoring outlook for this game starts with the Bulls, who are averaging 117.2 points on 47.3% shooting while giving up 120.2 points on 47.4% to their opponents. They are knocking down 36.8% of their three-point attempts and hitting 78.6% at the free throw line, and they are pulling in 45.3 rebounds per game, which usually helps them keep games alive on the glass. At the same time, they allow 37.1% shooting from deep, so their defense often bends on the perimeter even when they are battling inside for boards. The Nets bring a much more modest offensive profile to the table, averaging 107.1 points on 44.3% shooting and surrendering 114.9 points on 49.4% shooting on the other end. They are hitting 34.1% from beyond the arc and 78.1% from the stripe, with 40.4 rebounds per game, but the overall numbers show an attack that can stall for long stretches. Brooklyn is giving up 37.9% from 3, which is high, yet their own scoring punch, especially without Porter Jr., is not exactly built to turn every game into a track meet. Chicago's numbers might suggest offense first at a glance, but their recent form has featured a lot of sloppy stretches, inconsistent shot making, and lineups shuffling because of injuries. Brooklyn's offense already sits on the low side of the league, and taking away their leading scorer only tightens things up more, especially against a team that at least has size and rebounding to contest possessions. When both sides are dealing with rhythm issues, short-handed rotations, and confidence problems, you often get more choppy half-court possessions and fewer clean, up-tempo scoring runs. There could still be pockets of scoring, but the overall feel points more toward a game that grinds and sputters on offense rather than one that flows freely for 4 quarters. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Sacramento Kings versus New Orleans Pelicans. The Sacramento Kings and the New Orleans Pelicans meet at the Smoothie King Center on Monday night, and it has that uneasy feel where one team is slumping hard and the other is trying to convince everyone it is turning a corner. Sacramento comes in off losses to the Clippers and the Cavaliers, with the Jazz up next on the schedule, and the reality is they have dropped 12 straight games, which wears on any locker room. New Orleans just fell to the Bucks, responded with a big win over the Timberwolves, and they see the Heat next. But even with that emotional comeback, they have still lost 18 of their last 24 overall. Both rotations are thinner than you would like in a spot like this. The Kings are still missing Malik Monk and Zach LaVine, and now Doug McDermott and Domantas Sabonis are both sitting in that questionable bucket, which makes their depth and structure feel pretty fragile. The Pelicans have ruled out DeJounte Murray again, so they are also down a key guard who handles the ball, scores, and sets the tone on the perimeter. The frustrating part with Sacramento is that they have not been completely hopeless on the floor every night. They have actually shown flashes of decent basketball, like in that narrow loss to the Cavaliers on Saturday. They hang around, they show some fight, then they still find a way to walk off with another defeat, which slowly kills any trust you might try to build in them. New Orleans, on the other hand, seems to be hunting for momentum after that dramatic comeback against the Timberwolves on Friday, the kind of win that can give a group a little extra belief and energy at home. Here is the thing, laying a bunch of points with the Pelicans is not exactly anyone's favorite hobby, and it is understandable if the number makes you pause. This handicap, though, tilts more toward how bad the Kings have become than any blind faith in New Orleans. Sacramento has been a mess, and now they are down key rotation players on top of the losing streak, which just adds more strain to the remaining core. The Kings are sitting at 20 to 32-2 against the spread this season, which tells you they have not only been losing, they have also been falling short of expectations over and over again. It is also worth noting that this is the first time since March that the Pelicans have been listed as favorites by 5 or more points, so the number itself stands out a bit. Odds makers are more or less telling you what they think of the Kings right now with this kind of line. This group has played its way into do not trust territory for a lot of people. Even if Sacramento can scrap, bother New Orleans with effort, and hang around for long stretches, the combination of poor form and missing bodies makes it more likely that things unravel late. In that kind of setup, the Pelicans are in a good spot to lean on their depth, ride the home crowd, and eventually create the separation they need on the scoreboard. As our first pick for this matchup, the New Orleans Pelicans to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The scoring profile for this matchup starts with a Kings team that puts up 110.5 points per game on 46.5% shooting, while giving up 120.6 points on 49.2% shooting on the other end. They are hitting 34.9% of their attempts from beyond the arc and 77.3% at the free throw line, and they grab 41.1 rebounds per game, which is decent on the glass but not dominant. They also allow opponents to shoot 35.7% from 3, so there are plenty of clean looks given up on the perimeter, especially when their defense gets stretched. The Pelicans bring a slightly higher scoring number, averaging 114.5 points on 46% shooting, but they are also allowing 121 points on 48.2% from the field, so their defense has been leaky as well. They are knocking down 34.2% from long range, hitting 78.5% at the stripe, and pulling down 43.7 rebounds per game, which gives them a bit more presence on the boards. New Orleans allows 35.9% shooting from deep, similar to Sacramento, and that combination of defenses that give space to shooters might look like a recipe for a high total at first glance. Once you factor in context, though, the picture gets a little different. The Kings are riding a long losing streak, missing multiple important offensive pieces, and that often leads to choppy half-court sets, forced shots, and stretches where the ball just sticks instead of moving. Their scoring average reflects a full season, but right now their rhythm is clearly off, and asking short-handed lineups to keep pace for 4 quarters can be a lot. The Pelicans can certainly score, yet they also have stretches where the offense turns cautious, especially if they get a lead and lean more on controlling the game rather than constantly pushing the tempo. With both defenses allowing a lot on paper, it is easy to expect a shootout, but the combination of fatigue, injuries, and uneven confidence can pull the game toward more grinding, stop-start sequences. Missed rotations might show up, but missed shots and longer, slower possessions can limit the total number of clean scoring opportunities on both sides. That kind of environment, where the pace does not completely open up and one team in particular struggles to stay efficient, points more toward a final score that lands below the projected number rather than soaring past it. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.